some friendships are meant to fizzle out. You didn't have to say that. Like, it could have just been a thought in your mind and you did not have to say that to me. Parents are flawed humans just like we are. So you're always going to be a villain in someone's story. If it's meant to be, it will be. Hi my loves, welcome back to my channel. My name is gisleniq if this is your first time here. So I am super excited for today's video because today's video is going to be 29 things that I've learned at 29. So I actually got this video inspiration from one of my favorite YouTube. Her name is Nazanin. I'm sure you guys already know of her. If you don't, I'm glad I can put you on because she is literally one of my favorite YouTubers. I'm gonna go ahead and pop up her YouTube right here, and I'll make sure to link her channel and the video that I'm talking about down below as well. But yes, she did a video like this a few months ago because she turned 25. So she did a video talking about 25 things she's learned at 25. And I thought that it was such a good idea. And I was like, I definitely want to do that when it is my birthday. So as you guys know, I just turned 29 earlier this month. And I really wanted to do this video for a number of reasons, but the main one is because around my birthday, I like to really sit down and reflect on things that I've learned in that year and kind of how the year went and what I want to pick up or change in the new year to come. So I felt like this video was perfect for me to kind of sit there and reflect on not only what I've learned in this last year, but just what I've learned in the last 29 years of my life. I have definitely gone through some things that have really shaped the person that I am and the way that I think. So yeah, this is gonna be a very interesting video. So I have 29 things that I have written down. So I'm gonna go ahead and go through them. If you guys want to hear about the 29 things that I've learned at 29, then go ahead and keep watching. Alright, so like I mentioned, I have a list right here. Literally it says 29 things, and I think I actually have 30 as of right now. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get right into it. So the first thing that I have written down is lower your expectations of people. And I feel like this is one that I really learned in like recent years. I realized that if you hold people at the standard in which you hold yourself, you're always going to be left feeling kind of disappointed, because at the end of the day, we're all different people. Everybody views things differently because of the way that they were raised or just circumstances of life, and so nobody's gonna think to do things the way that you do it. So I feel like if you just lower the expectation that you have of other people, then you have a less chance of being disappointed by those people. And I feel like part of that is kind of sad because it's just like, damn, like I just want people to handle things the way that I would handle it, but at the end of the day, that's just not realistic. So if you just lower your expectation and not expect people to do things the way you wanted to do it, then I feel like that leaves less room for disappointment. So that is kind of one of the ways that I kind of look at things nowadays. I'm just like, you know what? I'm not gonna expect you to do something the way I do it, because at the end of the day, that's just not realistic. If you do it that way, then great, but if you don't, it is what it is. All right, so number 2 is stop internalizing. And I feel like this is one that I've struggled with my whole life, and I feel like up until this point I still struggle with it. I tend to be the type of person who just like internalizes everything. Like I just feel like everything is like, you know, directed towards me or a reflection of me. And honestly, sometimes people just move or say things that they say because of themselves, and it really has nothing to do with me. So that's definitely something that I've learned, and I feel like I'm still trying to like always keep at the back of my mind, like it is what it is. Don't internalize it. 9 times out of 10 it probably has nothing to do with you, so don't lose sleep over it. So now number 3, stop taking things personally. And I feel like those kind of go hand in hand, where again it's just like it's not about you. Like 9 times out of 10 when somebody says or does something, there's no reason for you to sit there and be like upset and think that it's because of you or they were talking about you, because realistically humans are super selfish. They really just care about themselves. Like nobody's really thinking about you, so there's no reason to sit there and take something personal. I find that nowadays, unless somebody tells me like, oh, I feel some type of way, there's no point in taking it personal, because at the end of the day it could really have nothing to do with you. And if that person doesn't communicate like, hey, this is about you or whatever, there's just no point in me sitting there like losing sleep over something or taking something personal, because it really could just not be about me. I hope that makes sense. I feel like 2 and 3 kind of go hand in hand. Is don't internalize and don't take things personal, because 9 times out of 10 it's really not about you. And so number 4 is stay optimistic. And I feel like this one's like, everybody says this, like stay optimistic, but I feel like sometimes when you're going through things, it's really easy to get pessimistic or be very negative. And I feel like I can definitely tend to be kind of negative or look at things in a negative light rather than just looking at the positive of something. So that's definitely something I constantly have to remind myself, especially when, you know, something isn't going the way that I want it to. Just kind of remember like, hey, things are not that great right now, but at the end of the day, things are gonna get better. And just remembering that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, even if it doesn't seem that way, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. So definitely something that I constantly have to keep reminding myself. And I feel like sometimes it's also good to remind other people as well, because we can just kind of get wrapped up in our problems or just the negative things that are going on in our lives. All right, so number 5, some things are better left unsaid. And I feel like I don't personally struggle with this too much, because I definitely am a super empathetic person. So I am like very cautious about things that I say to other people, because I am super aware of the fact that words hold a lot of value, and if you say something to somebody, it could really like affect them or ruin their day, or you just don't know how what you say to somebody could potentially affect their mood or their mental state. But there definitely have been circumstances in my life where people have said things that I was just like, you didn't have to say that. Like, it could have just been a thought in your mind and you did not have to say that to me. So I feel like because that has happened to me, it's always in the back of my mind that much more to just be cautious about what I say, and just remembering that there may be some things that I think or some opinions I might have, but at the end of the day, that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to say it. So yeah, some things are better just left unsaid, better left as thoughts. And sometimes you do not have to communicate everything that you're thinking. So number 6, and I feel like this is one that I really learned last year going to therapy, and that is our parents are flawed humans just like we are. And I feel like this was like a really harsh reality for me, because I feel like for the most part we all kind of tend to think that like our parents are these superhumans, and you know, they don't make mistakes and they don't have flaws, and at the end of the day it's just not true. It's not realistic. I know that might hurt some people and they're probably like, no, my parents great, but, and I'm sure all of our parents are great. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who have parents who aren't great, but for the most part our parents are great individuals and they try their best. But our parents are just like we are. Like, eventually if I have children, I'm gonna still be the flawed human that I am. At the end of the day, we all are flawed humans. You can still be an amazing person but also be flawed. Like, I just feel like that's just the reality of life, that, you know, there's just circumstances in our life that make us flawed for one reason or another, because at the end of the day no one's perfect. So I'm gonna be a flawed human, and I'm just gonna be a flawed human who's raising kids and trying their best. And so yeah, like, it was just, I feel like it was something that I kind of came to my reality last year, where it was just like, wow, like my mom is literally just a regular person like me, who really was just trying to figure out life and also raising me and my brother at the same time. And yeah, it was like, it was a hard thing to realize, but I think it's important, because then I feel like you don't hold the things that your parents do that you may not agree with. You don't look at it so badly, because you're just like, at the end of the day, our parents are gonna make mistakes just like I do, or just like we do. And I feel like it makes things a little bit easier when you look at it that kind of way. Okay, so moving on to number 7. Things aren't happening to me, they're happening for me. This one is another one that I really kind of struggle with, because I feel like when I am in difficult moments, I'm just like, I don't understand why this is happening to me. Like, I'm a good person, I try to be a good person to other people. Like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? But I definitely have found that you know, once those difficult situations happen, I can kind of look back and reflect and understand that all those difficult moments that I was going through was for something bigger in the end. It was either for me to grow, or it was for me to learn something, or for me to get myself out of a certain situation. And so I feel like it kind of makes difficult situations a little bit easier when you have the mentality like, this isn't happening to me, this is happening for me. There is a bigger picture, there's a lesson here, there's a reason why this is happening. And I feel like when you keep that in mind, it might make the difficult situations just a little bit easier. Like, obviously it's still gonna be shitty and it's still gonna, you know, suck, but I think when you just keep in the back of your mind that there's a reason why everything's happening, then, you know, it just kind of makes the situation just kind of go by a little bit easier. All right, so now moving on to number 8, and that is, some friendships are meant to fizzle out. Ooh, you could not tell me this like 10 years ago. Like, there was just no way. I really thought that the friends that I had 10 years ago were gonna be my friends forever. And there was just no way. Like, my mom would try to tell me like, that's just not the case. And I'm like, no, like, I'm gonna be friends with this person forever. I would have a fight with somebody and I would think it was the end of the world because I was just like, oh my god, like, this is my best friend. But there have definitely been quite a few of my friendships that have fizzled out, and they have been really difficult. Honestly, I feel like people don't talk about friendship breakups enough. Like, you know, everybody highlights romantic breakups being super difficult, but I feel like people don't give enough attention to friendship breakups, because I feel like those can be just as hurtful, if not more. Because I feel like when you are like really close to somebody, like for example a best friend, and then it doesn't work out, you feel like you almost lost a part of you. So I have definitely gone through my fair share of friendship breakups, and in the moment it was like such a dark period, and I just really didn't understand why those friendships didn't work out. But now, again, coming out from the other side, I understand that those friendships just weren't for me, and it was one of those things. Another thing that I kind of learned is some friendships are for a season and some friendships are for a reason. And those friendships that fizzled out were really just because those friendships were the friendships that I needed at that time. But then eventually our lives just kind of went in different paths, and that's totally okay. And I will say that maybe some of those friendships could have continued to grow if there was better communication, which I will talk about a little bit later in one of my lessons that I've learned. But yeah, it's just like, you know, it sucks sometimes, but at the end of the day, some friendships are just not meant to last forever. So going on to number 9, things aren't always as they seem. And I feel like this one is a really important one, especially for me, because I feel like there would be sometimes I would see certain things and I'd be like, oh my god, like everybody's so happy. I feel like I really struggled with this, especially post-grad. There was a lot of people who I went to school with that were, you know, getting jobs, and I struggled to get a job post-grad. And I was just like, oh my god, everybody is so successful. And even up until this point, I feel like there's so many people around me that I just like see them and I'm like, oh my god, all these people around me have everything figured out, and I just, you know, can sometimes feel very lost. And I was just with a few of my cousins this weekend, and you know, I was kind of like, you know, talking to them about it, and everybody was just like, what? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I'm literally just going through life and just going through the motions and figuring it out day by day. And it just kind of reminded me that at the end of the day, it may seem like people have everything figured out, their careers figured out, or it may seem like people have the most perfect relationships and things like that. But at the end of the day, you do not know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know what struggles people have. So just remembering that things aren't always as they seem, and just don't beat yourself up, because at the end of the day, you do not know what is actually going on. So number 10 is enjoy the journey. I feel like this is definitely something that I have always heard, but I definitely have struggled with. because I feel like I've always been so caught up in trying to like reach a goal, reach a goal, reach a goal, and then I get to that goal and I'm just like, okay, what's next? You know what I mean? So I feel like now I'm really trying to step into that mentality of just enjoying the journey, enjoying everything, you know, all the steps, whatever that is, because at the end of the day, like, you're constantly trying to reach new heights or trying to reach new goals, and then you get to that goal and you're just like ready to move on to the next one, and it's just like you're not even enjoying the process that took you to get to that goal that you wanted to. Like, for example, I went to college and I really wanted to get a diploma, and I feel like during that whole time that I was in college, like, I did enjoy my time in college, but I wish that I would have really enjoyed it more, because I'm never gonna get those 4 years ever again. So, you know, I just feel like it's so important to just enjoy whatever journey you're on, because at some point you're not going to be on that journey anymore and you're going to be on another one, and it's just important to just enjoy every single step, because then I feel like when you get to the end result, you are just that much more appreciative of it, because you enjoyed everything that came along you getting to that final step. All right, so number 11 is be kind to yourself. So this is one that my therapist has been trying to tell me and get instilled in my head for the almost 3 years that I've been seeing her, and I feel like I definitely struggle with it. I can definitely be very like self-critical, so I'm constantly having to remind myself and just rework the way that I speak to myself. And I was actually, like I mentioned, I was with my cousins this weekend, and they were talking about how one way to like just remind yourself to be nice to yourself is if you look at a picture of your younger self and you spoke to that younger person the way that you speak to her now, would you not feel bad for speaking to her or him that type of way? So it's just like, when you think about it like that, you're just like, man, like, why am I speaking to myself or that younger self this way? So yeah, definitely something that I'm still working on. And you know, as long as I continue to work at it every single day, I feel like eventually I will rewire the way that my brain works, and I will always be kind to myself rather than the opposite of being super self-critical. All right, and so number 12, I feel like kind of goes hand in hand with number 11, is unhealthy habits don't change overnight. Sometimes, again, I can kind of beat myself up because I'm just like, why are you being so critical of yourself? And so then, you know, it's kind of like a domino effect. But my cousin told me the other day, she was like, you can't just be upset with yourself because you're not being kind to yourself, because you've been, you know, operating this way for 20 plus years, and now in the last 2 years you're trying to rewire and change the way that you are with yourself and the way that you talk to yourself. So you can't just expect that you're gonna change the way that you are after 2 years when you've been doing something for 20 plus. So just keeping that in mind, like, unhealthy habits do not change overnight, and that's not just with the way that I talk to myself, but you know, the way that you eat. If you constantly eat bad, you can't just expect that from one day to the next you're just gonna be this like super healthy person. You're gonna have slip-ups, but just constantly remind yourself, like, it's okay, it was a slip-up, and we're gonna get right back on it. So number 13 is people's reactions are a reflection of them and not you. And I feel like this is a really important one that I also have learned in recent years. At the end of the day, you know, people react based off of themselves and how they are, their personality, and it really has nothing to do with you. Like, you can approach somebody in a really, you know, positive way, and they could potentially still have a negative reaction because that's just how they are. So when you constantly have that in the back of your mind, that people's reactions are a reflection of them and not you, it makes things easier. And again, it kind of ties into the first two, which is just like, you know, you don't internalize it because you're just like, this has nothing to do with me, this is all to do with you and the way that you handle things and just the own demons that you may be battling yourself. So that's between you and you. Number 14 is don't hold people's opinions about you to such high standards. Again, this is another one that I really struggled with, because I tend to be the type of person who cares a lot about other people's opinions of me. But I feel like, especially in the last, I would say 6 months, I've really learned to kind of let that go. Because at the end of the day, people are always gonna have opinions, whether you do exactly what they want, whether you're a good person, bad person. Like, people are gonna have opinions. It's like farts. Like, everybody farts, everybody has an opinion. You know what I mean? So when you remind yourself that everyone's gonna have an opinion, then it just makes things a little easier, because it's just like you're gonna have an opinion regardless. So I feel like now I don't hold other people's opinions of me to such high standards. The only opinions that I hold a little bit more weight are the people who I'm super close to, that I really care about their opinion of me, because, you know, I care about them and I know they care about me. And so if they have an opinion, it's because, you know, they just want me to be a better person. But even then, I feel like you have to learn how to draw a line of what opinions that people have of you, what you take for yourself, and what you kind of let go of. Because at the end of the day, only you know yourself, only you know your heart, and only you know your actual intentions behind things. So when you keep that in mind, I feel like it makes things a little bit easier. Number 15 is stop blaming other people for your unhappiness. Again, another one that I really would struggle with, but I have definitely dealt with a lot of things in my life. So I would blame other people for certain situations that happened in my life that then, you know, cause me to be unhappy or be sad or whatever. But I feel like if you do that, you're giving other people way too much power over you. So you just need to remember that at the end of the day, only you can control your emotions. So don't blame other people for how you feel, because at the end of the day, only you can dictate how you actually feel. So don't put blame on anybody else, because if you feel some type of way, that means you need to sit there and reflect on why you feel some type of way, because nobody can get you out of whatever funk it is that you're in. All right, so number 16 is what's meant for me will find me. And I feel like this one's super self-explanatory. At the end of the day, what's meant to be for me, God is not going to take away from me. So yeah, like, I just feel like that one's like super self-explanatory. You know, if something's meant for me, it's gonna come to me no matter what. And so sometimes I don't even like try to force things too much, because I'm just like, if it's meant to be, it will be. So number 17 is you're always going to be a villain in someone's story. And I feel like this one is really important, because especially for me, like I said, I used to always care about what other people thought about me. So I would always try to justify things or tell my side of the story. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you do. We're all different. So there's always going to be a possibility that you're going to be a villain in someone's story, whether you were a villain or not. At the end of the day, everybody perceives things differently. So you could potentially be a villain in someone's story, and maybe that person's a villain in your story. It is what it is. Can't sit here and lose sleep over it. All right, so number 18 is lead with kindness always. I feel like this one's super important. I feel like nowadays people don't lead with kindness. I feel like for the most part, like, there's a lot of people who are super angry and they just have like attitude. And I just feel like I don't really understand. I feel like if we all just led with a little bit more kindness, then the world would be a little bit of a better place. I just am a firm believer of lead with kindness, because you don't know if you being kind to somebody could potentially make their day better, or just shift the way that they look at life, or the way that they, you know, approach certain situations moving forward. Number 18 is stop letting your fear of other people's opinions dictate what you do / how you move. Again, I feel like this kind of ties in to my other ones. At the end of the day, people are gonna have opinions. People are gonna think the way that they think. So you should just do things the way that you want to do them. For example, I didn't start my YouTube channel way earlier in my life because I was afraid that people were gonna judge me, or people were gonna make fun of me. And it's just like, who cares? Like, at the end of the day, people are gonna have an opinion of you regardless, so just do whatever makes you happy. All right, so number 20, and this is one that I have always struggled with, and I feel like now is when I'm really kind of getting better at it, and that is learn to set boundaries. I feel like I've lost a lot of relationships in my life because I haven't set boundaries. And so for me, what would happen is people would do things that I didn't find appropriate, or I didn't like, or I found disrespectful. And instead of just saying it and being like, hey, I don't appreciate it, and setting a boundary, I would just kind of like tally it up. And then there would come a point where I was just like, oh, you know, I don't mess with this person anymore because this person disrespected me XYZ number of times. And it's just like, I feel like it's a little unfair to that person because I didn't just say like, hey, I don't appreciate that, and set a boundary. So I would definitely say like that is my fault in why some of my relationships haven't worked out. But yeah, I just feel like moving forward, I'm gonna definitely try to set boundaries with anybody that I have a relationship with, whether that's my mom, whether that's my cousins, my friends, my husband. If there's something that I do not like, I'm gonna set the boundary, period. All right, so number 21 is health is wealth. And I know that this one's like super cliche, like everybody says it, but honestly, it really, really is. And I feel like I really, really learned this, and this really kind of came to the forefront where I was just like, whoa, like health really is wealth. Back in 2016, my mom got sick, and she just was going through a lot of like health complications, and she ended up having to get open heart surgery. And for literally 6 months, my mom could not care for herself. Like there was people who had to come and care for her. So some of her sisters would come and they stayed with her for some time, and obviously I stayed with her as well. Me and my brother helped out. At the time I was in college, so I only could help out for a little bit, but then I had to go back to college. My mom was like somebody who was like super independent. You know, she raised me and my brother by herself, so she just basically did everything on her own. And then to see her be in a state where she literally could not even bathe herself, she couldn't make her own food, she couldn't even feed herself, it really put into perspective like, wow, it's so important for you to take care of yourself and to try to be like as healthy as possible, because you just never know when you're not going to be able to like just take care of yourself. My health is so much more important than other things that we put emphasis on. All right, so number 22 is travel. So I am Dominican. My mom is from the Dominican Republic, so we would always go to DR pretty often. Like I wouldn't say every summer, but for the most part we were going to DR. So I always kind of knew to like, you know, what it was to go to a different country. But it wasn't until I went to college and I studied abroad that I realized like how much bigger the world was than just what I knew, which was, you know, living here in New York and then going to DR from time to time. And so when I studied abroad in Madrid for 4 months, and I went to 10 different countries in Europe, and I was just so like, my mind opened up so much, and I learned so much about like, one, just different countries, about different cultures. Honestly, it's definitely something that if I have kids, I want them to be able to experience traveling, because I feel like it really just changes you as a person, and it just makes you more open-minded. Like I definitely would tell anybody, if you have the opportunity and the ability to travel, do it, because it really has changed my life and just changed the way that I look at the world and the way that I look at life. All right, so number 23, and I feel like this one definitely doesn't apply to everybody, but it definitely applies to me, and that is the gym is therapy. When I go to the gym, it's like an outlet. It's my opportunity to disconnect from all the problems that I have going on, or whatever could potentially like be weighing on my mind. And I just love the gym. It's such a good place for me to just disconnect and just be one with my body. It's just like, it really is therapy for me. And so number 24 kind of goes hand in hand with this one, and is your body is stronger than your mind allows you to think. And this is so true. There's definitely times where I'll be like in the gym and I'm just like, oh, I can't, you know, I can't push that weight, or I can't run anymore, and mentally I'm telling myself that I can't, but then I do it and my body's like pushing the weight and it's no issues, and I'm just like, wait, hold on, I'm way stronger than I actually thought that I was. So I definitely try to always keep that in the back of my mind now, that it's just like, don't let your mind limit you, because you probably are way stronger than you actually think that you are. So definitely something to keep in mind. Sometimes our mind wants to play tricks on us, but you have to be able to like kind of control that and just be like, nah, not today. I am gonna try. Maybe I'm gonna fail, maybe it won't work out, but at least I'm gonna try, and I'm not gonna let my mind limit what it is that I do. All right, so we're reaching the end. Only have a few more. All right, so number 25 is surround yourself around people who inspire you to be better. And I feel like that one's super self-explanatory. I feel like if you surround yourself around people who are constantly chasing their dreams, or good people, or, you know, just always striving to be better, it makes you want to strive to be better. Like I mentioned, I have a lot of cousins who, to me, they inspire me, because I just see them and I just see what they're doing, and to me I'm like, oh my god, they have everything together. So it inspires me to continue to push and be better, so I'm not like kind of left behind. Yeah, so I think it's important to just surround yourself around people who are doing what they have to do, good people. And it's kind of that saying of, you know, you are the people that you surround yourself with. To a certain extent, I kind of agree. If you surround yourself around people who are like really good people and are hard workers, it just motivates you to be a hard worker as well. All right, so number 26 is try different things even if it scares you. So this one is definitely one that I need to constantly be reminding myself, because I could definitely kind of hold myself back from doing things because I'm afraid of how it's gonna go. I think that having the mentality of not wanting to do something because it scares you really limits you from experiencing different things or trying different things. So that is definitely something that I am trying to always, you know, keep in the back of my mind, is even if it scares you, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. That just means, if anything, you should do it that much more, because that means it's out of your comfort zone, and you always want to be making sure that you're pushing yourself to be out of your comfort zone, because that's really the only way that you're going to be able to grow. All right, so number 27 is relationships aren't always going to be 50-50. And I think that this one also is super important. Sometimes we are taught to think that relationships should be 50-50, but I don't think that that's actually correct, because there's gonna be some times where you're gonna have to put a little bit more effort than the other person, because maybe that person just can't show up the way that you want them to. And that just goes with relationships in general, like not just romantic relationships, but just relationships with friendships or relationships with family members. Maybe that person is, the other person is going through something, and you need to be showing up for that person a little bit more. You need to be reaching out more, and then vice versa. It could just kind of switch over where that person needs to show up for you a little bit more. So I think if you always keep in mind that a relationship isn't always going to be 50-50, it will make relationships last a little bit longer. And granted, obviously there's exceptions, like you don't always want to be putting 100% into a relationship. If you feel like that person isn't putting effort into the relationship, then obviously you have to sit there and reassess. But at the end of the day, a relationship isn't gonna be someone is matching the same type of energy or putting in the same type of energy as you're putting. Ideally, that's how you would want it to be, but that's just not always the case. So I think if you go into and keep that mentality in mind, it could definitely help with keeping longevity in the relationships that you have with people. So number 28 is communication is key. And I feel like I should have started with this one, because I feel like this one's like probably the most important out of all of the ones that I've written down. And it's definitely something that I still struggle with. I feel like I never really adapted that skill of like being really good at communicating, because I feel like when I was younger I couldn't just like voice however I felt, because it was just like I had to do whatever I was told, and if I communicated it was a bad thing. And so I feel like now I don't communicate, especially if there's something that bothers me. I feel like it's like something that I really struggle with, but it's so important, especially in relationships. It's so important to just communicate whatever, whether it's something you like, whether it's something you don't like. It's just important to communicate, because the only way that people can understand you and really know you is if you communicate whatever it is that's going on in your mind, whatever it is that you're feeling. So yeah, communication is key. People can't read your minds, people can't read your emotions, so just communicate it, and yeah, and then move on. All right, so number 29 is don't lose sleep over other people's opinions of you. I feel like, again, this kind of ties back to some of the other ones that I mentioned. At the end of the day, people are gonna have their opinions no matter what, because it doesn't matter what you do, people are gonna have an opinion. So don't sit here and lose sleep over what somebody may or may not think about you, because you can be trying to sit here and, you know, change the way somebody thinks about you, but they're still gonna have that mentality of you. So don't lose sleep over it, because they're gonna have that opinion regardless. Then I have a number 30, which I'm not 30 yet, but I figured I'd throw in this last one, and that is don't forget to be grateful. And I think that this one is super important. I feel like we as humans kind of tend to go through life with not showing enough gratitude for just all the things that we have. Like, just the fact that we're alive, like that's the one thing that we should be grateful for. And I think I've really definitely tried to tap into, you know, being more grateful and showing more gratitude. I, in the last year, have gotten this like gratitude journal. So every morning I write what I'm grateful for in the morning, and then I write what like kind of went well and what I was grateful for throughout the day. And I feel like it really helps me kind of sit and ground myself and remind myself that there's so many things to be grateful for. Just the simple fact that I can speak, the simple fact that I can, you know, see, just the simple fact that I am healthy, like all those things are things to be grateful for. And so yeah, I think if we all just lead with more gratitude, then things would be a little bit better, and you know, we wouldn't have such a negative outlook on life, because there's always something to be grateful for, even if it's something super small. So definitely wanted to end off on that. So yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. That is 29 things that I've learned at 29. Definitely have so many more things to learn, so I want to continue to do these and kind of update them and see what things I add on to my list moving forward in future years. But I hope you guys got a little bit more insight on me, on some of the things that have kind of gone on in my life that have made me learn these type of things. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Turn on your post notifications so you get notified every single time I post a new video, and I will catch you guys in my next one. Mwah! Bye!